Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore first generation, reference 25721 in titanium. You can see and you can purchase this E-Series Offshore on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch, with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore in titanium. Now this is in fact the original 1993 Emmanuel Guite Royal Oak Offshore, the original Monster Masher. This is the watch that more or less turned the luxury watch industry upside down, the first truly luxury oversized reference in the sports watch class. IWC, I hear you, the Portuguese, but not a sports watch. This timepiece really transformed collector conception of what a luxury high horology piece could be. As imaginative as the original 1972 Gerald Genta Royal Oak, this one took on a life of its own, so it's interesting to see how far we've come since that very first model. And I'm happy to say, in terms of profile, stance, attitude, and ambiance, the watch has not come too far, which is to say, it has not fallen too far from the tree of perfection. The watch is 42 millimeters across the round of its titanium case, not inclusive of the crown guards, chronograph pushers, or crown. It's slimmer than you might think. At 14 millimeters thick, with a generous rounding of the octagonal bezel, you can see that you could slip a relatively tight sleeve over the side of this one, and you'll have no trouble with a sport jacket, a blazer sleeve, or a loose sweater. Now, from lug to lug, this is where the watch really expands beyond the norms of a 42 millimeter timepiece, because the lug to lug measurement's a hefty 54.5 millimeters, and that's before you consider the plots, the intermediate mini links that join the lugs to the bracelet. They do flare, and as you can see, there is a sort of incompressible arc to them that creates virtual size across the wrist, and that flare, the virtual size, is 57.6 extremity to extremity, but I still feel that this is one to wear on a smaller wrist because of the lightness of the titanium. I would say down to about 15 centimeters in circumference you should be able to wear this watch, and again, full titanium bracelet and case. It's not excessively hefty. It's quite comfortable, in fact. Bonus points. Compared to the early Royal Oak Offshore 25770, the equivalent watch on a strap, this one retains currency with the vintage bracelets and the current straps. Remember, that first generation Offshore on a strap featured a mono hinge, a single hinged lug link, so it can't use modern, for instance, hornback straps. This watch, though of that vintage, can use modern Audemars Piguet straps, so it has a little bit of future-proofing in the design of its lugs. Now, the watch also features a full bracelet, which is to say that it was the minority among sales of offshores at the time, most of which were on the original concept's strap. So having the watch on a bracelet retains a little bit more of the original Gerald Genta design DNA. Let's talk about what that means. It means that the watch is all of a piece. The lugs are blended with the bracelet. The taper, the bevel of the lug, blends into the bevel of the individual links. The taper of the bracelet is gradual. The appearance is more of a piece of titanium jewelry, and Gerald Genta prided himself on being a jewelry designer first and a watch designer second, so Emmanuel Guite retained a lot of that jewelry essence in the Offshore on bracelet. Very little changed aesthetically and conceptually in that respect from the original Royal Oak. Now, what you do have here is a double deployant clasp with a clamshell action. The interior swing arms and chassis are made of steel for rigidity and strength over many opening and closing cycles, so while the remainder is titanium, the interior is steel. It features a convenient clamshell for security when closed, reassuring, I must say, on a watch as expensive and bulky as this one. Also, let's be frank guys, these things do tend to occasionally hit the edges of doors, drywall, and what have you, and it's nice to know that the watch is firmly buckled to your wrist. Likewise, Audemars Piguet cutting no corners, attaching the bracelet with screws, no spring bars here, no pins and sleeves, upscale and secure. Now you can see in profile the Offshore makes more of its case components than the original Royal Oak. On the original Royal Oak, yes, there was a separate bezel, yes, there was a separate case, and there was a hairline glimpse of the bezel gasket between case and bezel. Here the bezel gasket is oversized and physically part of the structure as well as the style of the watch. It's emphasized deliberately to create more of a modular machine aesthetic. Likewise, you have the contrast between the black of the gasket, the polish of the bezel flank, and the satin of the case band itself. Turn it over, you can see the signature hexagonal bezel bolts, no longer white gold on the Offshore as they were in the original Royal Oak. Here they are hardy stainless steel, high polished contrast with the satin finish of the bezel top, and then inboard, a first generation baton hand lozenge dial petite tapisserie. Now you can see the tapisserie or hobnail cut of the dial is distinctly smaller than the convention established later on, and true to the present moment on the Royal Oak Offshore line. This is a hobnail more akin to that found on the original Royal Oak. It's a beautiful gray, and it's paired with a metallic blue set of accents. All of the sub-registers, as well as the tachymeter Rayhaut scale, for a little bit of color and character. There's a nice grayscale medley going on between the gray of the dial base itself, the white gold of the hands and the lozenges, and the white of the individual hands for the sub-registers, as well as the Lancet-style chronograph seconds hand. Just enough color in conjunction with the nitrile covers of the chronograph pusher and the crown shoulder. I would say, all things considered, the watch has the aesthetic of, I would say, a 9 out of 10. Pre-owned watch, full disclosure. It's not completely perfect. This is a good watch, a survivor, and a daily driver. Being a early E-series, it hails from the mid to late 1990s, and taking that into account, the watch has aged remarkably well. The dial is immaculate. The case is excellent. In respect to the individual bevels, this is always the telltale of careful ownership on an Offshore. Do the bevels still taper? Do they still flow into the beveled shoulders of the individual links? Are they still crisp? Is the transition from satin to polish still sharp? And I'm happy to say, in each instance, the answer is yes. Internally, Audemars Piguet caliber 2226-2840. What does it mean? It means it's a Jaeger-LeCoultre 889 tractor base with a Dubois de Praz triple register chronograph module featuring vertical clutches, 54 joules, automatic winding, 38 to 40 hour power reserve. These earlier Offshores, because of the thinner profile of the JLC 889, featured internal soft iron Faraday cage type structure to channel magnetic field lines around the movement. With the later Audemars Piguet 3126, that capability was lost because the Audemars in-house caliber was too thick to combine that and the cage in the same case. But you have the same water resistance level, the same convenient automatic winding, same precise fundamental movement architecture. Both are very accurate calibers. And you have the hacking seconds, so pull the crown, stop the second, as well as the quick change date, such that you can rapidly cycle the deeply set Cyclops magnified Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore date, still a signature of the line. You can see and you can purchase this handsome early E-Series Royal Oak Offshore 25721 titanium on our website.